Hello, good morning. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you. In credit to our tremendous organizers, the vision and the genius of the conference leaders, we are co-participants in the reawakening of our global culture. We are aware that our contribution has great impact in the reawakening of our businesses so that people will come to work, stay, and not quit. We are aware that this new phase has implications for our families as our young adults struggle. And we are aware that in this renaissance, we will need to use science and many forms of human knowing together to help recreate a new decade. So I came to you today with a love story. And it's not a love story of just two people. It's not even a love story of only one family. It is our love story, the human community. And it's a love story told in what I view the most beautiful language of all, that of clinical science. So what do we know? Well, we know that there's three challenges we face in every country. The first is the rate of the diseases of despair. The rate of death by suicide now rivals the rate of death by auto accident in teenagers and young adults. It is more likely that a teenager will die of their own hand than by COVID or cancer or any other disease. These are our children, these are our grandchildren. What else do we know? We know that in many of our countries, there's difficulty being sisters and brothers because we have a different zipped-up bio-bodysuit or live at different GPS coordinates. And as a global community, there is now one youth culture. And is that a youth culture that's stemming from deep roots of relational ethics, or is it one of transactional relationships versus transformational? So I offer you this science in the same way I have been asked to share this exact science for 3 years with the US Pentagon, with many large businesses, with higher education. This is a roadmap of who we are through MRI studies, through genotyping studies, through long-term clinical course studies, who we are as innately spiritual brain, innately spiritual beings. These broad and pervasive regions represented in red, this was published in JAMA Psychiatry by our team in 2014, are regions of processing power, regions of strength, regions of perception, regions of reflection, regions of orientation that are thick and strong in people who have engaged perhaps our most unused universal strength, innate capacity for spiritual awareness. These regions are regions that go hand in hand with spiritual awareness. Sustained over 8 years, we see structural changes, architectural changes in all of our brains. This is not just the most pious or the monk who meditates the most. This is all of us, every single one of us. And what's remarkable is that whether I come from a family that follows Christianity or Islam or Judaism or Hinduism or Buddhism, we have the same spiritual brain. There is one spiritual brain, and we all have it. Of course, there's human variability. Of course, there's beautiful diversity in its expression, in its symbols, in the practice around the cultivating of spiritual life. But it is for all of us to know that these beautiful, thick regions, broad and pervasive regions of strength in our brain are not strong. They are not thick but thin in people with recurrent major depression, in people at risk for suicide, and people at risk for the dual diagnosis of depression. So if I have a child, and I have 3, if I have a grandchild, it is very helpful to know that there is nothing in the clinical or social sciences as profoundly protective against the diseases of despair as a strong red brain, sustained spiritual awareness. 4/5 less likely to become addicted, 70% less likely to take foolish risks, driving 90 miles an hour. And the epidemic of our time is suicide. We are 2/3 less likely to take our own life, and that goes up to 82% when spiritual life is shared in the Sangha, in fellowship, in prayer, We are innately spiritual beings, and we are sick because we have yet to realize the wholeness of our nature. We have a global pandemic from which we are leaving, COVID, but we have an enduring global pandemic of these diseases of despair in 18 through 25-year-olds. And while they affect us all of every decade, those who bear the brunt of our global choice to remove spiritual life from the public square, from the global public square, in a way that is inclusive, in a way that is loving, in a way that says, I want to know you. We've come some distance. We've made some progress around inclusivity, around gender and orientation and race and nationality, but where are we with spiritual inclusivity? It is our birthright. And what else do we know? We know that any of our faith traditions, our beautiful faith traditions all around the world, will get us there. About 70% of people in our global community say, I am spiritual and I am religious. And whether, again, I am Hindu or Islam or Christian or Jewish or Catholic, it has the same effect on my red brain. I am spiritual and I am religious. What do we know? We know through twin studies, epidemiological twin studies, that there is a deep heritable contribution. Every baby is born with 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a nose, and every baby is born with an innate capacity for spiritual life. How much so? Well, I'll give you a yardstick. Our temperament. If you're parents, you've probably seen a baby in the night. Our temperament is half innate, half environmentally formed. I have 3 children. My middle child, who has asked to go by center child, woke up for 18 months, 4 times a night. I walked, I soothed the baby. Innately, she was ill at ease. Environmentally, she took in that soothing and sleeps through the night. Half innate, half environmental. The capacity through which we experience spiritual life is 1/3 innate. It is all of ours, and it looks the same in the brain. 2/3 environmentally formed means that our pastor, priest, imam, rabbi, grandparents, and parents, the 10,000 exchanges in our high school, all weigh in 2/3 environmentally formed to shape the spiritual core. We each in this room have an enormous impact on our children and grandchildren and those who work in our organizations. As you know, like a picnic blanket, your lived way of being spreads out through the organization. How you look at number 2 is how number 2 looks at 3, and on down the chain. There's a deep way of being. And as you know, you can walk in the lobby of an organization and know in a moment if it is one that is spiritually supportive. Now, about 30% of people say, I'm spiritual, but I am not religious. They have the same red brain, too. This is who we are. And when we look at the magnitude of the benefits of spirituality across health and wellness, performance, thriving, relational ethics, it appears that simply to be whole, the spiritual core is the hub of the wheel in a whole person. And we now do this in the US Pentagon for soldiers who are now stronger and more fit. Spiritual Readiness Initiative. We now do this in higher education, Awakened Campus Global, to which you are all invited, so that in this period of coming of age, every young person in the country, in the world, working together has the opportunity to understand the roadmap of science through which they may realize their whole being. We are born spiritual. But there are, just as we start to grow and look different physically, there are growth spurts spiritually, and every tradition on earth marks these moments. Science now does too. We can look through a longitudinal twin study and see that from middle puberty to late emerging adolescence to adulthood, from the inside out, there's a surge, a growth spurt. Just as people start to look like men and women, they are growing on the inside. I invite you to think into your own tradition. What is marked by physically coming of age? Through the lens of science, there's a 50% increase in the heritable contribution, which means a biological clock goes off. What is my purpose? And I don't mean, am I going to be a banker, a lawyer, a teacher? I mean big P, purpose. With my precious life, with respect to ultimate reality. And I want to know, who are we? What is my deep moral commitment to you and you to me? you can hear Gen Z all around the world doing this work, trying to put the pieces back together during the moment that they are in their growth spurt of adult spiritual emergence, spiritual individuation, the knowing the me and not me of the spiritual nature of reality, who I am and my place in the universe. If we can support them, if we can support this highly sensitive, high-impact moment, we are securing a global community of young adults who will be healthier, who will be more ethical, and who will know each other in the deepest way as sisters and brothers, as opposed to a radical identification with material being, where I am and what I look like. There is another way of being that is much deeper. We are a point and we are a wave. I tell my Columbia students, I tell them we are magnificently diverse and located all over the world, and we are also white caps on one ocean. We are one sea, one consciousness field. To know both, to feel both, to live both, is to have an entirely different life. We're coming out of COVID. This was a gift of 3,000 people who shared their lives, all of whom meet criteria for trauma. And what you'll notice is people struggle more with trauma, more sleeplessness, more horrible memories, more uncomfortableness with those who they used to be able to look in the eye, as they struggle more and more and more out the x-axis. Up the y-axis are units of growth. Post-traumatic spiritual growth. More struggle, more growth. More struggle, more growth. So much so that it's not till the end that we are so flooded we need support to grow. We are built through our red brain to deepen, to look more deeply into life and to awaken. Spiritually wake up in times of despair. And is this not a global invitation of our lifetime? When we do, we avail ourselves of all forms of human knowing. We're more ethical, healthy, and we also make more innovative, more creative, and better decisions. We move out of a narrow dorsal attention network, I've got to have it, to a bottom-up ventral attention network, and a new possibility we'd never even realized it was there pops. When we can get the head and heart speaking, if you will, at the table of human knowing, we are all built with an empiricist, a logician, an intuitive, and a mystic. And the skeptic gets to be there too. But the skeptic is not the bouncer at the door. And when we can bring into dialogue our multiple forms of knowing, we look like that. We myelinate the tracks. We pave highways between regions of the brain so that we are more innovative. We move from a zero-sum game to a win-win game. This is who we're designed to be. And our strengths, if you think of your children, your grandchildren, your employees, our strengths that give us, yes, outward success, traction towards our goals, but also give us character and virtue to make ethical decisions. Well, it turns out that forgiveness, gratitude, optimism, grit, meaning, these character strengths amongst these 5,000 young adults all sorted into the same people. Folks in blue were simply high in character. And folks in red, who may be in my house, or in my school, or in my company, are low in character. How do we get them up? How do we improve that employee? How do we make them someone ethical, hardworking? It turns out with 85% of the time, a young adult has as much character, traction, leading to outward success, as he or she has on the left, daily spiritual awareness. The red brain. This is our greatest resource. If you want an employee who doesn't steal, who stays at work, who works hard, the culture and climate can be one of nourishing the natural spiritual core. So this is the science. Over here. This is the science. I share this with you. Can I move this forward one? Can we move that up one?
I think that's it for your slides,
okay.
actually, Dr.
Good.
Miller.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, the awakened brain is a gift. It is a gift from myself and our conference organizers to every one of you. So please take one. In the back are the references for the scientific case of your natural spirituality, the awakened
Thank you so
brain.
much, Dr. Miller. We've got a very brief question for you from the audience. We're bringing you the voice of youth, very briefly, from Manal Al-Rami.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Close.
I want to use this time to speak of young individuals. As a undergraduate student in her 20s, I got a Boston University study biomedical engineering. And I think in summer 2019 and 2020, when COVID happened, we missed out a lot of significant opportunities that are significant for us as young individuals. So I was wondering if you think there's a way for us to make up these opportunities as young individuals, and would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you. So perhaps the most important work of 18 through 25 is the deep foundational work of who am I, what is my mission and purpose, and what is the deep nature of life to which I'm going to contribute. There's a hardwired process of existential searching. And as much as COVID was painful, it accelerated the awareness during this precious time of growth in young adults. And so you will walk away. This was not lost time. This was not downtime. You will walk away with a depth of awareness on what is real and what is not. Our institutions are wonderful when they run, but a lot shut down and some closed, right? Our plans and aspirations can seem so real, but they're invented by our achieving mind, not necessarily our awakened mind. So you have lived through a moment where for the rest of your lives, you will have an ability to see more deeply into the foundational level of life. And what lasts? Love, spirit, truth. What doesn't last? The institution that seems so real. Thank you.